Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeVias, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. Okay, a question for you rebooters out there. What sports platform is set to pass the $3 billion mark sometime this decade? Probably not what you guessed, but if you guessed Polo, you're right. And to talk everything Polo and a lot more, one of the biggest reboots that I've seen and I really like is I'd like to welcome Michael Prince to the Reboot Chronicles. Michael's the president and CEO of US Polo Association, which is the official global licensor and broadcaster of the United States Polo, which you're going to hear about. You know, Cole Haan, Guess, Converse veteran, Nike. Michael has been rebooting this iconic sports-inspired brand into a global category on multiple fronts, including the broadcasting business, which I'm pretty excited about, Polo Entertainment, that showcases high-profile games reaching over 10 million viewers worldwide throughout multiple content platforms, including his new mega deal with ESPN. Some of you have probably seen that already. So there's a huge reboot story here to unpack here as Michael is looking to expand their reach into 2,000 stores, 100 e-commerce sites, and 10 million social media followers across maybe 200 countries by the end of this decade. Not easy to do. So, Michael, it's great to see you.
Dean, thanks for having me.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, giving your 10-year plan, but it's I was so inspired when I heard about it. I said, oh, wow, I'm just going to lead with that. But, you know.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just a lot of people are kind of wondering, Polo, let's see, what are we talking about here? So I just thought before we dig into the reboot and the business, maybe can you tell us a little bit about the sport and what's going on?
Oh, I would love to. So, as you mentioned, US Polo ASSN, which is the business of what we run, is the official brand for the sport of the United States Polo Association. And what's interesting about the sport of polo was that it was founded in the United States in 1890. But it actually has a history going back to 600 BC, played in Persia. So if you think about it, it's one of the oldest sports in the world, and one of the oldest extreme sports on top of that. So think about 600 BC Persia, and now it's founded in the United States in 1890. And so it's been around for almost 135 years. In fact, in 2025, we'll celebrate our 135th anniversary, and we'll share that with the world.
Nice.
And so over the last few years, the sport's really grown.
If you went to 600 before Christ, how many years would that be? I can't even do the math.
Oh, it's a lot, right? It's 2,623
One of
years,
the oldest
give or take.
sports. Take that, golf. Come on now. This is amazing.
Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah, and that's what's really interesting, though. It's about embracing tradition, but looking forward to the future as well. And I feel like that's what we've really done. And if you look at what the business and the sport have done together, we've created this, what I call, beautiful flywheel. And you may say, well, Michael, what does that mean? And we've got three parts of the flywheel. Part number one is a $2.5 billion global brand connected to the sport in 190 countries worldwide. We've grown over $1.3 billion in the last 6 years.
Wow.
In 1,200 of our own retail stores, 7 million social media followers. So that's one way to engage with the brand and the sport. The second piece is, and I'm glad you asked me for the math on BC. For 2,600 years, this sport wasn't on broadcast television. It didn't happen. And this organization, our company, went and sat down with ESPN and said, hey, can we have just 3 beta tests? Let us give you 3 games and let us show you what we think this sport can do on broadcast television.
Smart.
And the feedback was tremendous. But the one thing that we talked about ESPN with is like, hey, if we try to compete head on, sport to sport with American college football, the NFL, World Cup soccer, we probably can't win head to head in sport. But if you enable us to show the lifestyle of the beautiful polo fields, the world-class horses, the beautiful cars and people that come to the games, the divot stomps, the philanthropic side of it, we've got a lifestyle story that no one else in sport can tell. And when we all looked around the table, we realized, hey, this is going to bring in also an additional demographic of a consumer that may not even be a sports person, but they want to see the divot stomp. They want to see who's showing up for polo. So that was phase two. And then over the course of this past 2023, over 15 million viewers worldwide will have watched the sport and engaged with the brand through ESPN and our other broadcast partners. The last piece, Dean, is what I call the ultimate consumer sports experience. And in 2022, our parent company, with our partnership and support, bought the nicest polo facility in the world. It's 160 acres in Palm Beach County. There's 8 polo fields, world-class dining, world-class shopping, tennis courts, Olympic-sized swimming pool, and the ultimate consumer sports experience. So now you can engage with the brand and the sport in 3 different dimensions: retail, ESPN, our broadcast partners, and in Palm Beach County, the ultimate sports experience, all working together. And we believe all these 3 things working together have been instrumental in growing the business, exposure for the sport, and just really having a positive impact.
I love it. Digging into something people probably don't know what divot stomp is. So that's when everyone goes out in the field and kind of repairs the big holes. But boy, I'm thinking of what an interactive sport that no one's thought about that angle. Because baseball, they don't let you do that. Football, they don't let you do that. Golf, I mean, Live Golf might now steal that idea from you. Let people go out and fix the fairway. But the bigger thing here is, like, this has always been like, the sport of kings. So, as you celebrate this 135th year, what are you doing to bring the next generation into this, and not just the next generation of money and fans, but really getting them into the Gen Z and beyond, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you must have a sports background, because that's one of my comparisons is what I like to say at night. Grew up playing baseball, I love playing basketball, football. But guess what? They don't let you run the bases at Yankee Stadium, right? They don't let all the fans get out
No,
there.
a streaker tried
NFL
once.
halftime, you're not out. Yeah, you'll get in trouble if you do. But in the sport, in our sport, you bring your family and your friends, and everyone empties onto the divot stomp or to the field, and you stomp the divots. You have your champagne, your ice cream, whatever it is your thing is. You bring your dogs, and it's experience for being together. It's a celebration every divot stomp, and we're very proud of the fact that you're able to do that at our sporting events.
Yeah, I
And so
love
we
that.
think it makes us, yeah, really unique, and it's something that I think is just very special about the sport that we do that just doesn't exist, anywhere else.
Thanks for calling me an athlete. I think I've been more of a business athlete. My dad was never impressed with my athletic abilities. By the way, you've got this term that you coined, athleisure, I think it is. What is that?
Yeah, that's an industry term, so I
Oh, it
can't
is.
take
I
credit
thought
for
you
that.
invented it. Well,
No,
did
I
I pronounce
wish
it
I
right?
wish that was me. Yeah, you
What
did
is it?
athleisure. That's correct. Yeah, athleisure is basically, think of casual clothing on the field, off the field. It really became popular, I'd say, during the pandemic, when
Oh,
sweatpants and hoodies and all that got really popular and became almost mainstream. I think we've now found a better balance between work, business casual, sporty casual, and athleisure. So now we all kind of found that balance. But it's an important part of the market, um, just
I
like
thought it
other
was more the
aspects are.
experience, not the what I'm wearing. But I won't make any comments about everyone seems to be wearing pajamas on airplanes these days. So I guess
A lot of people wear
that's air
pajamas.
leisure, a little bit too
That's
much.
right. That is air leisure.
Another thing I didn't know is Polo. I don't know if it's global or US. Is like number 4 behind like the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, which surprised me. So like NASCAR, soccer, golf, F1, the heck with them. You're above all those.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we'll break it down into 2 pieces. First of all, you've got media rights. Now, those other sports you just named are much bigger with media rights. We've
Sure.
just now
Yeah.
broken into the media world with ESPN, and very happy with that relationship. And just one thing I want to mention about ESPN, they've been great partners, and with them, we've highlighted our best women's tournaments, our collegiate tournaments, our most high profile tournaments. And one thing that's really unique about the sport is that if you're an if you're a female basketball player and you want to play LeBron James in the NBA championship,
Good
you don't get that
luck.
opportunity.
Yeah.
You have your own league. It's called the WNBA. But in this sport, the best women and men play on the fields together as equals and as peers, and women have
Uh,
won our biggest and most grandest tournaments. 40% of the players in the United States are female, 60% of the college players are female, and we work with 52 college teams throughout the country, of which 60% are female. And you'd asked me earlier, and I didn't answer your question in totality about accessibility.
yeah.
We've actually really exposed the sport to say, hey, you can play it as a 10-year-old at the collegiate level, as a baby boomer, as a Gen Xer. There's arena polo, there's high goal, but it's more accessible than people realize.
Yeah, you mentioned 52 colleges. I didn't know it was that big of a sport in like American collegiate sports.
Yeah, so you have what I love about the sport is that it transcends across every level of college, meaning that we've got big public, small private, West Coast, East Coast, HBCUs, liberal arts schools, all the above. And we work with 52 of them and supporting the men's and women's teams where we provide them gear to wear, a financial contribution. And a lot of times we're the difference in them being able to have a season or not have a season. So we're very proud of that. And then you asked me about the size of the business. And like I mentioned earlier, when you look at commercial media rights, we're small. But when you look at retail sales, and that's what consumers purchase, your product, the only three sports franchises that are bigger than us or sports are the National Football League, the NBA, and Major League Baseball. And so we're bigger than NASCAR, Formula One, NHL, WWE, MLS, just keep PGA Tour, just keep going down the list. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I think our ability to catch the third group in front of us is much closer than the ability for the group that's number 5 to catch us.
Yeah.
That's the kind of growth we've seen globally. And what works for this brand is the fact that we're classic Americana. We're connected to a sport that people are intrigued by. And we offer, I'd say, kind of working families and middle income families all over the world, no matter what country you live in, a great price to value proposition to engage with a really good brand. And so we're very proud of that.
Yeah, and it also leads to kind of like the reboot. Let's switch to you. You're a couple great successes as president COO. Came here out of Nike with just no blinders on, pun intended, I guess. What? Tell us about that experience. I mean, you looked at this in a totally different light. It would probably still be stuck in the King's Age, I would think, if you weren't here. So yeah, what was that? What was that journey like? What'd you do?
It was interesting, and thank you for that question. Nike really taught me how to think about sport inspiration, and I love sports, but how to really brand sport,
Mm,
and also think about authentic connections. And then when you think about best in class brands, there's Apple, there's Nike, there's a handful of others that are really just world class brands. And when I looked at this opportunity, I saw sport. A lot of people saw fashion. And I said, there's a fashion aspect to it, but it's really a story anchored in sport with fashion as part of it, rather than a story that's anchored in fashion and sports a part of it. And so we immediately came in and started really figuring out ways to work with the colleges that we talked about, professional athletes, supporting events, not only in the US, but all over the world. When you're in 190 countries, you want people to know you're authentic, not only in the USA, but in England and in Turkey and in India and in other places. And so we really started this hard pivot into sport inspiration, authentic connections, and really kind of thinking about how the 20-year-old, the 25, the 30-year-old was thinking, and even the 10-year-old. Get them young and get them into the ecosystem and funnel, and give them a great experience for the next 50 years of their life. And I think the vision, as they say, without execution is delusion. I think we took a vision
exactly.
and we've executed it, and I think the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's such a global sport, and most people don't know. But I would say India and the UK and Turkey would probably say you Americans don't have a clue. We've been doing this for whatever Turkey and India probably 1,000 years. What are those markets like just out of control? Like it's like they're soccer, or is it still a niche sport and around the world? And I guess the real hidden
You know,
question here is where is it taken off besides the U.S.?
it's a niche sport. I believe we've been able to make it more, give it more exposure.
Yep.
But India actually had polo before the United States and the UK did, but it's teeny tiny in India. Where our brand, just the brand
Huh.
just passed another brand as the number one sports casual brand in all of India. And you think,
Wow.
you may say, well, what does that mean? What that means is India has a population of 1.5 billion. It's the world's largest democracy. They love America. Many of them speak English. Half the population's under the age of 25, and we just became their number one brand in the entire marketplace.
Brilliant.
And so that's a $500 million market for us. We see it being $1 billion market by 2030. But with that, we have the ability to also bring the sport back and really showcase it with our ESPN relationship in India, events, relationships we have there. So, our goal is to grow the business, but also give the sport great exposure as well, and grow both. To be honest with you,
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of cross promotional opportunities for you. You're not, we talk a lot about partnerships here and build by borrow and how you should actually, do your brand extensions, your growth through innovation. But is there, because you're kind of non-competitive, is there crossover with things like cricket and baseball and I'll even say golf, divots aside. What when you look at growing the business and now that you're on ESPN, it's can you cross promote to these different audiences to grow this too? My
Absolutely.
feeling is it's not going to be a niche sport in 10 years.
Absolutely. One of the things in the U.S., when I looked at the sports calendar, and I love all these sports questions you're giving me, is if
I'm
you walk
trying.
through the calendar, you say January is the college football championship. Great, check. February is the Super Bowl. Check. March is March Madness.
Yep.
And then spring,
We got the
there's a lot of
yeah. You
downtime.
got the
You got the
Derby, and that's just
Masters.
the Derby's is one. It's like it's like 4 minutes.
There you go. So you're in my head right now, but you have Masters Sunday in April,
Oh,
early April.
forgot that.
You go all the way to the Derby in May. And you've got an entire month where there's nothing going on except for one thing. The U.S. Open Polo Championship, the most prestigious tournament in North America, one of the three most prestigious in the world, happens every third Sunday in April in Palm Beach County in front of 8 to 10,000 people. It's the place you want to be. So with ESPN, we're starting to position this as now a mainstream event between the golf at the Masters and Kentucky Derby, and those are the same people. The people that are going to the Masters and the Derby are the same people that will come to Polo. And so we're cross pollinating that and getting that exposure. But I look at the world in sort of kind of four pillars when it comes to a brand. There's sport, which we're in,
Yep.
and it's authentic to us. There's the fashion side for us, which we do a lot of fashion events around the world, like Pitiomo in Florence is the man's largest fashion event in June, and we always own that for the week. We have a huge party, we have a big booth, both are packed, and we own it. And then we look at what I kind of call music.
Hmm.
Is there an opportunity to infuse music with whatever we're doing, and/or entertainment and art? And so, to your question, I'll look at others. Like I was one of the sponsors for the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year awards a few years ago at Hard Rock in Fort Lauderdale, where Tom Brady won the award.
Right.
We were one of the sponsors because I saw the connection to sport. We've advertised with ESPN Plus around College Game Day and college football because nothing's more Americana than college football, and to me, nothing's as Americana as U.S. Polo as well. So crossing those two over as well. So finding those opportunities where it makes sense to co-brand or to partner around events that we feel like represent us well.
Yeah, my head is on fire. I mean, there's so many funny ads you could do. It's like, what games involve a ball and a stick? Golf, like polo. But
Well,
the funny thing about
Dane, if
golf
you think
is
about that,
the funny thing about
the
golf is
first
we're all they're
you're
basically
wearing the
using
polo shirt.
your shirts. They're just putting golf
Here's
logos
two
on
things.
them.
First of all, the first stick and ball sport ever created was polo.
Yeah.
So think of all these other stick and ball sports that have come around: baseball, golf,
And golf is easy. The ball's
cricket.
not moving and you're not on a horse.
You know what? Sylvester Stallone, who's a polo player, you'll see him in Palm Beach County at the games,
Yeah, I
has a
heard. Yeah.
famous quote. He
Hmm.
said, "Hitting a golf ball or playing polo is like trying to hit a golf ball in the middle of a an earthquake. That's how hard it is."
Exactly. Count me out. Too many moving parts there. So, a lot of CEOs tune into this, entrepreneurs, even big time executives, just looking for reboot lessons. What's the takeaway from what you've done here? Your trajectory so far has been amazing, and it's a hidden story. So, how can you help some of these other folks kind of like take their thing to the next level?
With this, I've been in the branded world for almost 20 years now. And the way I'm wired is I have to really be passionate about the brand. When I'm not, I don't execute at the same level. Then it becomes more of a job rather than a vision, part of your DNA. And with this brand, that connection to sport
All right.
just really reached out to me. That the connection that there's a player and it's his or her equestrian partner really connected. The fact that this was a classic All American brand, the story had never really been told. Um, and to be able to be passionate and really care about what you're doing and what you're representing. And I've had other places in the past where I didn't love the brand as much, and I didn't love what I did as much. And I think an important thing. The other thing is, especially as a CEO today, and you know this, I've seen your resume and all that you've done, is that in the past it used to be primarily to deliver results. If you could deliver results, you pretty much had a job and things were good and you kept going no matter what kind of personality you were and all that, with a few exceptions. Now you have to be really thoughtful about balancing a great team, delivering results, understanding ESG and sustainability, understanding what's fair and equitable with DEI and other things. And so there's a lot more, I'd say, complications to this role than there's ever been, and in a more, I'd say, complicated environment around us too, with everything going on in the
So
world.
many moving
So
parts. Yep.
so many moving parts, and it's all complicated, and we're all exposed to a certain degree to social media and other things as well. And my advice would be, stay your course, stay true to your core values, be willing to pivot and to listen, uh, but don't get caught up in everything that's going on. Always try to be fair and equitable with whatever you do.
Yeah, I love it. I teach, you actually just did one of my lectures. So I teach how to reboot companies and focus on people, platform, and passion. And passion is not what you think. It's not just being excited about the business, but that's usually what's missing. I've been in those roles too, where I'm like, turnaround CEO guy come in and I'm like, oh, I don't even like the product. What am I doing here? Um, but I had
It's
the
hard.
CEO of JC Penney on recently, and I asked him off camera. I'm like, why the hell of all the jobs you could have done? There's already been 4 CEOs that have tried this with the brand, and
That's a
he's
hard one.
come in with a kind of a reboot. He said the passion is the most important thing. These people, they're retail. They're probably one of your partners, of course, but yeah,
They
it's
are.
just
Yeah,
like
they're a good partner for us.
re-energized it with, hey, it's all about the next generation. You can't just say it's not your father's, retail store anymore, your grandfather's. You actually have to incite the people to make people,
Yeah.
customers feel like they're having fun coming in here, or whatever the turnaround piece is. Have you brought some of that in? It seems like you are. You're like re-energizing this old, king sport that was like really for fancy people. And I mean, is there an analogy to live golf here? That some people don't like what they've done to golf, but I kind of like now when I go out, I don't mind having some music in the background on the golf cart. I feel like, I'm on TV or something.
Yeah, I went to the event in Phoenix this past year, and that was an
I think that's where they
interesting,
stole it. Yeah, you're talking about the waste management. It's like a party that happens to
yeah,
have
interesting.
it happens to be a golf outing breaking out in the middle of a
Happens to be a
party.
golf outing that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, is that
One comment on JC Penney's real quickly.
yeah.
They're a partner of ours, and I think he's done a nice job. What I like about his background is that he comes from a branded background,
Yes.
so he understands brands. I mean, I think that's really important in that sector.
Yeah.
And then if you understand your brands that you're working with, and you understand the consumers that shop your brands, that's really important as well. And I think some of their challenges in the past has been they just tried to blow everything up rather than saying, let's understand our consumer base and then let's understand all these great brand partners we work with. And I think Mark's done a good job trying to do both in a very tough environment.
Really tough. Yeah. Yeah, Mark's good. But the yeah, do you see your venues getting, I don't want to say out of hand, but you can try to appeal to so many audiences, you might lose the uniqueness of the. Is that a lesson learned for CEOs as well? It's like don't forget your core, but bring in the next gen, or what's the thinking?
Absolutely. You know what? You said it. Never forget your core. And when I look at what we're doing from an experience perception, it's or perspective, it's always about the sport first.
Mm.
So we want to put the best players on the best horses and get the best game possible on that Sunday because if that's good, everything else just gets better. And so, I think the sport does a really nice job with their tournaments and trying to make that happen. And then our goal is to make sure that the staff look amazing in our branded apparel, that the retail shop looks amazing, that the divot stop has the electric violin playing so you can listen to music, like you said, in a nice way as you're stomping the divots and,
Oh
and
my
drinking
gosh,
your
that's like
champagne
a
and taking
scene out of
selfies with.
Bridgerton or something. That sounds fun.
Exactly. And I think if you do it the right way, having all those little special touches just builds the experience. And so that's something we really try to focus on. One thing I mentioned Florence, the largest men's fashion event in the world happens in June. It's called Pitiomo. And so we actually had a VIP event during the week where we infused sports. So we did like an Arabian horse show, music, brought Planet Funk out of retirement. They performed, did a beautiful kind of private chef dinner, and then had a beautiful piece of art that was done on denim,
Yep.
denim being one of our key categories. And it was a nice way to infuse all of that. Had we just gone really heavy on one, I'm not sure the patrons would have had the same experience, but being able to incorporate all of it and do it all in a beautiful way, kind of light touch, I think really left a good impression on everyone.
Yeah, I like the way you guys are inclusive. Like, I'm kind of envisioning you've got guys there in their nice, suit, coat and tie, and guys like me who are just like short sleevers. And then you've got, the hoodie crowd that I actually have one, but I can't go out in public.
And all are
It's silly.
welcome.
Just all together.
Everyone's welcome.
Yeah, everyone's welcome. But
Absolutely.
the best thing I've learned today is women can play on the same, against men. And I don't know any other sport that does that.
It doesn't exist.
That's amazing.
Think about every sport we've talked about: baseball,
It's all
basketball,
segregated.
football,
It's like,
golf.
it's like
It is. Yeah.
no, no, and no. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Michael. Really appreciate it. The time always
Oh, absolutely.
flies
It's
here
been
with great
it's
people
been
like
great.
you. Everyone's curious. Just what's been your biggest personal reboot and challenge that you've gone through in your life?
My biggest challenge, and you'll remember this. I was a young CFO at Nike, and I was over Converse, their largest subsidiary and their most profitable one,
You know,
when the global recession hit. And you talk about getting thrown into a meat grinder quickly.
yeah, you were not popular
Uh,
either. I bet. Oof.
no, because that's exactly right. You're cutting costs. You're stopping hiring. You're doing everything that everyone doesn't want you to do, but it's the right thing for the business. But I think from that, and that was a really tough. We all had a tough time in that period, but the business came out stronger, better than ever, but not without some black and blue bruises on my end. But I learned from it. I learned, be able to use your head and your heart at the same time. Look at the analytics, but be thoughtful about your impacting people. Don't make rash decisions, especially big ones. Give your self time to think through it, sleep on it, talk about it. And I think that really helped us during the pandemic, to be honest with you, Dean, because I came in and it was a similar but different situation, and that you just didn't know what was going to happen. It was something unlike anything we've seen in 100 years. But I took out some of the same playbook, and I think that playbook allowed us to really focus, to execute, to have our partners focus. And, we were on a nice run and then took a 30% dip that year and then got it all back and then some. And then, we talked about the growth thereafter. But I think that experience, although it was a tough one back at Nike and Converse, uh, set me up for what happened in 2020. And I think there were a lot of CEOs that really struggled in 2020. Not saying we all didn't struggle some, but you could see a lot of companies having hard times making decisions.
Some of them flamed out, and But
Some of them flamed out.
many of them learned, since they didn't have their armor of secretaries and admins and assistant, whatever they call them, chief of staff running around. They were in touch with everything. I saw so many of them. A lot of them were on the program, come down to the grassroots level because sometimes they had nothing better to do, and other times they had to do it. And
You had to do
I
it.
thought it was transformative for some CEOs personally.
Yeah, I do too. I think it helped all of us grow.
Yeah,
You learn from it for sure.
yeah. Looks like you took advantage of it well. Michael, thank you very much. You've been listening to Michael Prince, who's the CEO of the U.S. Polo Association. Amazing group. Check it out. And this is Dean Tobias, the Reboot Chronicles. I want to thank you for joining us today. We'll see you soon.